Breaking up the noodles, break them up and serve them. Breaking up the noodles, break them up and serve them.
Alright guys, I am back with a new tutorial. You've just heard what we're going to make. It's Tech House, similar to Fisher Losing It. And we're going to jump straight into this tutorial. The only plugin you'll need to download is Sylenth 1. So go and grab yourself a copy of that. First thing we do is open up our FL Studio. And we're going to bring our speed down to 125 BPM. And we're going to drop in a Sylenth 1 just to start. Now, if you want to follow the creation of the sound here, you can do so by following what I do here. Otherwise, go ahead into the menu, preset, load, and then find the Yano Tech Bass 1 and load that one on up. But let's get started on designing this one here. It's very, very basic. So the first thing that you want to do is go to menu, preset, and then go clear. That'll reset all of the controls for Sylenth 1 and follow what I'm doing here. First thing we do is go voices up to 2 on our oscillator A1. We go to part B and we put the voices up to 2 also, but this is for oscillator B2. And then our wave sign here, we're going to click that and we're going to make that a saw. Next thing we do is we go down to this bottom mod envelope section here and we're going to load up a cutoff A and B. And the next thing we do is go to our sustain, drag that all the way down to 0, and our drive we're probably going to start at about, I'd say 5. You can see the readings just in here on Sylenth 1, or up the top to see the readings. So we're going to go to about 5, and then our cutoff we're going to go all the way up to max that out. Next thing we do is we go to the cutoff here, and we just bring that down to 0. And then our final piece is underneath filter A. We're going to click on the filter type button here. And we want to make that a low pass. And then we want to replicate the same thing on part B and make that a low pass. And then on the input select here, we're going to make our oscillators part B and A, and also do the same thing on the A side. So this is the basic, simple bass that we're going to start off with, which sounds like this. Very boring. Now let's drop down the octave. So we'll go down 2 octaves, which you're going to adjust here. And the same on the B side, we're going to drop it down by 2 octaves. And then if we go one more on each, so we go -3, too low. So we'll keep it at -2 on oscillators part A and B. So at the moment it's a little bit too crispy bass, and we can do that with the adjustment on this cutoff knob here. So if we bring that down to say about 7, still quite crispy, let's go 6.5. And we're also going to add a little bit of release. We're going to bring that up to about 1.2. And we're going to go to also our amp envelopes up the top. And we're going to bring that up to 1.2 also. And also inside part A, we're going to bring that up, the release, to 1.2. So now if we play the notes, it's nice and smooth. Another important part with any plugins that you have, make sure that the main volume is not maxing out within the plugin itself, because you'll actually be destroying your sound by doing so. So we'll bring our main volume down until it sits nicely in the green area. Okay, so to create our melody, we're going to just exit our Sylenth 1, and we are going to open up our piano roll by just clicking in this section here. If you have got the tabs like the usual FL, you can click this button here to drop out of the step sequencer and go into the piano roll option. So we're going to click in here and we're going to decide on what sound we want to make. So usually what I do is I put on the metronome and I change it to hi-hat because I like that very simple sound, and we're going to build something basic around it. Give me a couple moments, I'm going to dream something up here. Alright, so I've decided on something pretty basic, but let's have a little listen over to what that is. Pretty straightforward for now. Okay, so that's basically the start for just the bass. Once we've loaded that in, we're going to open up our mixer, making sure that this green tab is highlighted only next to the silent one there. We're going to bring up our mixer and link that into one of our channels. My personal favorite is to start with my synthesizers on insert 10. So we're going to drop that in, and we're going to put in our first 2 patterns, and I'm just going to give myself a bit of entry space here. So we'll actually put it from the number 5, and we're just going to paste 2 directly in there. Actually, let's do 4 in total. So now we have our bass sound sorted, and we've linked it to our 10th channel. We're going to move on to our kick directly after. In the pack that is in the description below, go ahead and download that and bring up the samples within. You'll find a Yano kick in there, which is one of the kicks from the Vengeance packs. So we're going to bring this one up and drop it straight in. Once we've loaded it in, make sure that that green tab is highlighted, and we're going to bring that into our first channel here. Now to link to a channel, you just go Control L to link, or you go right click, channel routing, and then route selected channels to this track. Once you've got that in, what we're going to do is just cut down the size of this kick ever so slightly. So currently it sounds like this, and we're going to cut that down a little bit so we get a little bit of a shorter kick. The difference is just a little bit. Okay, the first thing that I add on my kicks is a compressor. So I'm going to go to slot number 1. I'm going to add a fruity compressor. And an easy preset for drums under presets is drums. Straight up. Drop it in, close out of the compressor. Very punchy kick. I'm going to bring that volume down. And then we're going to go to slot 2, add a fruity parametric EQ2. Next step is to right click on the number 7, go to type, go to low pass. Then we're going to right click on the number 7 again and go order steep 8. And this is now a cutoff for this kick. And we can adjust that accordingly. Next step, we go to number 1, right click, order steep 8. We'll bring this right to the bottom corner. And here we're going to push our low end and we're going to cut our top end. So follow what I'm doing here. We're just going to push up some of the bass frequencies. So at about 40 Hertz, you can see the rating just here. We're going to go up about 4 decibels. And then at about, I'd say, 95 Hertz, we're going to go about 4 decibels as well. And then at about 200 Hertz, we're going to go, say, 2 decibels. You can see all these readings up in the top corner there. Next step, we're just going to have a listen and decide where we want to cut off our top frequencies here. Now this part's a little bit of just trial and error, so follow what I'm doing here and adjust your EQ accordingly. Okay, so this is my EQ slope now. And we want to be a subtractive EQ. We don't want to be pushing any extra frequencies. So on our dB adjustment here, we're just going to bring these lines down so that the top ridge sits directly on 0 dB. And we can have a listen back to that. We can bring our volume back up. So we're sitting close to 9 decibels. And the next thing we add in slot 3 is a fruity limiter. And from here we can take our ceiling and we're just going to chop the tops off. So if we play that again, we're just making a slight cut on the top of those kicks. And that keeps our kick nicely on 9 dB. Next things next, we go into the piano roll. Across the top here, we create a new pattern. My favorite way to create a new pattern is to click on this top bar and just hit the right arrow on the keypad. And it drops you into a new pattern. Very simply, we're going to right click and we're going to fill each 4 steps. And we will get those 4 in there. And what we're going to do is just drop in that kick for the first 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then again another 7 patterns. So we're just skipping 1 at the end there. Now this part is quite important. We haven't added any side chains or anything yet. and we're going to go ahead and select the perfect place to put our kicks so that the bass frequencies don't mess with each other. So the easiest way to do this is just to play the kick completely with the bass without any sidechain whatsoever, and you have a little listen. We can also take off our metronome. So you can hear that the kick and the bass are clashing together quite heavily. This is where we adjust our pitch on our kicks so that the frequency of the low end of the kick matches with the frequency of the low end of the bass. What we're going to do in the mode section is, instead of having it say resample, we're going to select stretch. So it's nice and low. Just rechecking our selections. So with this particular section, there's no expert advice that I can give into which things will fit perfectly, but you can listen carefully with your low end through your headphones or through some bass heavy speakers if the bass is chopping or falling off from one each. Next thing we're going to do is create a quick automation so we can get this track moving. My personal favorite way to do this is with a volume. What I do is highlight one beat, which is the space from the start of the kick to the start of the other kick. That is one beat. Once that is highlighted, we go back to our mixer, open up our Silent 1 channel, we go to slot 1, we add a fruity balance, and then we right click on the volume knob and go create automation clip. Once that's loaded, you'll find in your playlist area that you now have an automation clip. Now follow carefully on this one. We're going to zoom right in on this automation. We're going to right click first here, and we're just going to copy that value so that we can always reset it if need be. We're going to drop this down all the way, and then we're going to right click here to create an adjusted automation. From here we can put our curvature to 50% tension on this particular note, and you can see the values up top there. So 50% on this top one here, and we're also going to do 50% on this bottom one. So now we've got sidechain is a little too much. So to adjust this, we grab this one here, and once it's moving, we can press the Alt key and adjust this manually to make it fit. So my personal favorite is to have about 75% length, so about 3/4 of the way through that first quarter beat. We can adjust the start, and then our tension we're going to come up to about 30% to create a sidechain like so. Then we can close off this loop selection, and we can now make a paste of all of these automation clips to match each kick of the bass, as you can see here. So now if we play this back, so there we go. I've got it started up on the bass there. Next thing we're going to do is just push our volume a little bit on the Silent 1. So we're going to create a new slot, and we're going to put in a fruity limiter, and we can just push up our gain from there. So I usually have my bass sitting around about 9 decibels, similar to what the kick is sitting at now, but just slightly below. Pretty straightforward from now. The next part for this particular tutorial is we're going to drop in a nice heavy horn noise. Now you can find some of these quite easily with some of the Cashmere sound packs, which is quite common with producers. So we're going to go ahead and open that up, and we're going to go into our let's see, live instruments section, and then under orchestral instruments you'll find brass. I've got rips and falls, rises, stabs, and then sustains. So if we have a little listen to some of these. So I quite like that one in the middle there. So we're going to drag nice and loud and drop that directly into our playlist section. I'm going to double click that, And we're also going to bring down the pitch because it says here it's in middle F, which is the F frequency here. That is where that note is currently sitting. So we need to pitch this down by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 semitones in order for it to match the bass on the other side. Turn the pitch all the way down. I also like that the sample gets longer because I want it to sustain a little bit longer. You can check your key of your track or the root note of your track by just finding out in your bass line of what the most common note is in the middle there. That is most likely the way you'll find the statutory note for that track. So you can see here C all the way through, and we've now brought this down to match that same note. So we're going to double click on this, making sure that it is highlighted here on that one tab. Go to our mixer, I'm going to go to insert 20 and then Control L to link it in. Once we link that in, we can then bring the volume down because it's ridiculously loud. If you want to listen to just this sound only, you can right click this green button here and bring the volume down, I'd say to about 50%, and have a little listen. Cool, and at the end there you can tell that it sort of cuts, doesn't hold all the way through. So what we can do is just add some reverb to this to give it a bit more feel and volume. To do that, we go to slot 1, never mind that Facebook message, and we're going to drop into a fruity reverb 2. And I've got a settings preset that is in there that you can use. If you just go to the top corner, go to presets, and then it's saved as FXC2 or Yano FXC2. Click on that, and this is what it sounds like. So if we play that with the adjustment. And let's bring that volume down a little bit again. So if we put all of them together, we're not putting any sidechain on this brass, that's on purpose, and we play it back. Pretty straightforward. The next piece we're going to jump into to get moving is our hats and claps. To keep this extremely simple, we're just going to use a pre-made kit from one of the sample packs that I've got here. I'm probably going to go to my packs and have a little look through to see what I can find. Once I find a decent one, I'll come right back to you guys. Alright guys, so I've decided on what sort of hats and claps I'm going to go for here, and this one sounds a little bit like this. So together with the bass, you get... So once we've found that from the download pack, go ahead and drag and drop that one in, and link that to, of course, Control L on your next selection there. Now I'm going to push all of my percussions I push to the front of my channel rack, so I'm just going to go ahead and reset that to default. And what we need to do is double click once we've dragged and dropped that sample in. We're going to make sure that it's highlighted here, then we're going to drop that into our second insert, Control L, and it'll look a little bit like that. So altogether, just quickly, we do actually want to bring the volume down on these hats real quick, so just have a little listen to the kick and the claps together. We want to keep it at about 9 dB, similar to what the kick is at. And once we've got all of them together, we can go ahead and paste this sample across the entire track. Bam, like so. And let's have a little listen back. Now the next thing we need is something ambient and pitch changing as we go along. So let's go ahead into the download pack. You'll find the percussion that I'm about to use. I'm going to go and grab that one myself. Alright, so just go ahead and grab that percussion, which sounds like this. And we're going to drag and drop that into our playlist area. Make sure that's highlighted. We're going to go into Insert 3, Control L to link that one in. I'm going to bring the volume down a little bit on that one. What we're going to do now is create a new pattern. So what I like to do is click on the top there, right arrow, and then go again to get into the pattern 3. And for this one, we're just going to put a simple 4-beat creation on this one here. So we can do that quite simply like so. And it'll sound a bit like this. And we're going to bring that volume up a little bit. So to about -15 decibels. And the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and paste this across the entire section as well. Once you've got that together, I want you to create a selection inside your song of the entire first portion of the chorus, or 8 bars in total length. Next thing we'll do is we go into our pattern selection here. We're going to change our mode in the time stretching to stretch instead of resample. So it should say stretch here. And then we're going to go to our pitch range. First thing I'm going to do is bring this up to 24. No, let's go with 12. 12 decibels. And then we're going to go into our piano roll. And we're going to bring this right up nice and high. So we're currently at C5. Bring it up to C6. And I'm thinking maybe even C7. Then it sounds like this. Now that you've made that selection on that first 8 bars, what we're going to do is open up a pattern again. Go to the 12, which says here, right click on the pitch and click Create Automation Clip. Close out of that. Next thing we do is we right click and put a point directly in the middle, keeping that on 50%. And on the left side, we go all the way up to 100%. And the right side, all the way up to 100%. Now, the tension you want on this one, you can right click to reset it. But we want to create downward tension of 20% on both sides, so that it looks like a big U, basically. Looks like that. Now, if we play that sound by itself, with the pitch, it sounds a bit like this. Okay, next thing we do is we go into our mixer channel and we go back to that percussion. We open up a Fruity Delay 3. Now, I also have a preset for this one, which is in the download pack. You just go from the top corner here, presets, and load that in. If you can't find it, try and put the correct folder destination for that preset. And have a listen back to that. And we'll probably bring that volume down actually, so it reads at about -18. Now if we play all of that together. Okay, we're going to bring that volume down. It's way too loud, so we're going to bring that down. Thinking about -21, which is a perfect place to have it. You can sort of hear that the track is coming together slowly. We're also going to make sure that this brass is pasted on the second option here. And then from there, we're going to move on to our next part, which is adding another piece for the percussion. So we're going to go back to our pattern that has the percussion ride in it. And from here, we're going to go into the charts section, which I have in the download pack. So under my samples, I've got some chants in here. I'm going to go with chant 7. We're going to drag and drop that in. And from here, we're going to load up a sample on the second half of the beat, right on the number 4, but we're going to put it down on C4. And making sure that that doesn't overlap so that it cuts directly on the end here. I'm going to go back into that particular sample and change the mode to stretch. So then this sound comes out like so. We're going to take that sound and we're actually going to adjust the start or time of this one slightly. So if you zoom in, press down the Alt key, hover over the note and click, you can now drag it in a very small proportion. And we just want to let it overlap by about half of the 1/8 of a beat that we have there, just like so. So once we highlight this one here and we link that also to a mixer channel with Control L, of course, and this is what we have. Now from here, what we want to do is open up in slot 1 a Fruity Stereo Shaper, and I'm going to use presets Stereoize 3. difference is. It's nice and stereoed. And then we go ahead and have a listen to the volume, and we'll adjust that accordingly. Bring it down. Okay, so I brought the levels down on that one to about negative 65%. Next piece we're going to drop into is the atmosphere to give it that real feel. To do so, we go into the Cashmere sound pack. For today, we're going to use that one quite a bit. We're going to go to effects elements. Actually, no, we're going to go into vocals and then vocals beds and have a listen. So I'm liking this one here, which is vocal bed 3. So we're going to drag and drop that one directly in. Instead of just taking that one straight away, we're going to make a cut of exactly 1 bar. So what we do, or we can do 2 bars. So you grab the cutting key, and with the right click, you can cut a complete section off. And then we're going to left click on the second one here with a blue line. And then we're going to select this and just cut that out. Next step, we're going to copy this across 4 times, and then we're going to double click to open up our sample here and change the declicking mode to generic. From there we can double click on this because it's already in the correct key, it's in C. We can add that to our mixer on one of our inserts here. I'm going to do it in 21, and the volume on this one comes right down, say about 20% volume. We can have a little listen back. This is a very simple addition to any track that sort of fills out the sound. So if you have a listen carefully with and without, I'm going to take the brass away just to accentuate it. So this is without. And then if we add it in, it's a very simple addition just to fill out your sound. So all of the things stick back together again. The only thing we're going to do is add variation for the second portion of the drop, and we're also going to add a little effects exhaust in this one here. So to do that, what we're going to do is just go again into Vengeance, or into the sample pack here, and we're going to find in the download you'll have all of these together. The one that I'm going to use here is under effects elements exhausts. I'm going to pick one of these here. So I'm liking exhaust 7, which is going to be in the download pack. Drag and drop. And we're going to double click on this to bring it up and make sure it's the only one selected, highlighted here. Go to our mixer and we're going to drop in that effect. And then we're going to, first thing to do, bring the volume down. I'm going to bring the volume down more again. And we're also going to add a lot of reverb to this one. So we're going to go and open up a reverb 2. And the preset that we're going to load is, I've got it set under here as custom presets, but you can add in some of your own. If you click on Save Preset As, it'll bring you to the folder in which they're sitting in. So in a Fruity Reverb 2, this is where you should place the presets that are in the download pack. Just drop them into that location there. I'm going to load up mine, which is called FXC2, which we used on the brass earlier. Have a little listen to the difference. I'm going to push my decay time up to about, I'd say about 15 seconds. And I'm going to bring my dry level down a little bit as well. So this preset will be saved in the pack completely. So you'll be able to use that one too. Let's have a listen all together. Just going to bring that volume up a little bit, and we're also going to bring our percussion volume down. So these are small adjustments you make as you listen to see what needs to change. looks like we're getting somewhere now. Now, one of the things that we want to add is just something fun, something silly to throw on the track as a vocal to create it, give it a little bit of a fun vibe and movement. So I've decided to record something pretty silly. Let me go and find that sample. I'll load it up for you. Alright guys, so in the download pack you will have this one, and this one sounds a little bit like this. Once we load it up.
Breaking up the noodles, break them up, and serve them.
In a separate tutorial, if you want to, I can teach you how I turn this, breaking up the noodles, break them up, and serve them, into this.
Breaking up the noodles, break them up, and serve them.
But for now, we're just going to use that
Breaking up the noodles, break them up, and serve them.
as a little loop. I'm just going to put that right in before we drop straight into the track, so then you get
Breaking up the noodles, break them up, and serve them.
Obviously that's quite loud, so we're going to click on that. I'm going to load it into one of our mixer channels, Control L, and bring our volume down.
Breaking up the noodles, break them up, and serve them.
We're also going to paste that on the same place in the second part of those 8 bars, and again also over here, so that's on the 19 line, and on the 11 line, and also on the 3 line. So together.
Breaking up the noodles, break them up, and serve them.
Now obviously all of that sort of comes out of nowhere quite fast, a little bit too fast. So what we're going to do is go into our playlist section, go Control A, and we're going to give ourselves an entire 8 bars to create a little quick build. And to do so, we're going to just bring our hats in all the way across. We're going to also do a little trick with our exhaust, but we're also going to keep this sound in all the way through. And don't forget to keep this vocal bed across the entire track as well. So the next thing we're going to do is create a little reverse on this exhaust, because at the moment it just comes out of nowhere. So what we're going to do is click on it, paste one literally right behind it, go to this little latch and go make unique, and then double click on this, click reverse, and then from here we're just going to close out, go to the knife tool, and we're just going to cut off this last bar with the right click, drop it out, and then we're going to slide this directly below the exhaust here. So all together. And we're also going to double click on this, make sure that the declicking mode is generic, just to get rid of some of the clicks that come through, and we'll make the same on the other crash as well. So we put all of these together, we're just going to start from in the middle here.
Breaking up the noodles, break them up, and serve them.
Forgot to add my crash in the top here. And we can also add that little reslide as well. So what I'm actually going to do is get rid of the brass on this one here, just to give the bounce a little bit more room, just so we can leave this sample quite clean and simple. The final piece that we do want to add is a little uplifter, and you'll have that inside your pack in the download description as well. I'm just going to bring up the one that I use quite a lot in my tracks, one of my favorites, which is this one here. The only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch the time on this one. This one will already be pre-stretched for you, so everything will fit in nice and perfectly on time, and you won't have any problems with the build up. Once we load this one in though, we're going to directly put it in a new channel, and once we've loaded that one in, we will now put a reverb on it with the same one that is on the brass, so you should have that in the download description as well. And we're just going to take our dry down a little bit, so we're going to go to about 75%. So that takes away the raw sound, and influence of the reverb is a lot stronger. So we're also going to bring the volume down significantly on that one, maybe to about 35%. We'll play this from the build up now.
Breaking up the noodles, break them up and serve them.
Just gonna bring the volume up for the noodles. Have another listen there.
Breaking up the noodles, break them up and serve them.
And also I should have told you to paste this channel pitch across both sides so that it's got the sway the entire time. But yeah, that completely makes up the tutorial. Thank you guys for watching. I know this one was quite fast, quite basic, lots of samples used, so it's a little bit forced, but it does give you an insight into just a real basic deep house, sort of deep tech house sound, similar to Fishing Losing It. And you can go ahead and explore and use this any way you like. If you do use this for one of your own songs and you do create something out of it, all I ask is to put the link from this tutorial in your description or a link to my channel. And you guys can use it however you want, build whatever you like. All I ask is for just that small shred of credit in your description, and you guys can go for it. But thank you guys for watching. Please do subscribe and catch me on the next tutorial. We'll see what that is. Bye.